The text message that destroyed my marriage was sitting right there on Lisa's unlocked phone when she went to grab us coffee. Can't wait to feel you inside me again tonight, baby. T? I stared at those words for exactly 12 seconds before my wife returned to our kitchen table, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around two steaming mugs. She had no idea I'd just discovered her favorite lie wasn't "I'm working late" or "It's just a girls' night out." Her favorite lie was our entire marriage. "Here you go, honey," Lisa said, settling back into her chair with that practiced smile she'd been giving me for the past 6 months. The same smile she probably gave Travis, whoever the hell he was. My name is Nick Rourke, and up until 30 seconds ago, I thought I was living the American dream in our suburban Chicago home. Turns out I was just funding someone else's fantasy. "Thanks, sweetheart," I replied, matching her fake tone perfectly. 20 years of marriage had taught me to read her tells, but apparently I'd been reading the wrong book entirely. Lisa picked up her phone without a care in the world, probably assuming I was too absorbed in my weekend crossword puzzle to notice her sexting schedule. She was wrong about that. Just like she'd been wrong about thinking I was too boring, too predictable, too much of a pushover to ever fight back. Our daughter Mia wandered into the kitchen, still in her pajamas despite it being nearly noon. At 16, she had inherited my sarcastic wit and her mother's sharp intelligence, though thankfully not her mother's talent for deception. "Dad, can you drive me to Sarah's later?" "Mom promised, but she's probably got another emergency meeting to attend," Mia said, making air quotes that hit a little too close to home. "Of course, kiddo." "Your mom's very dedicated to her career," I said, watching Lisa's face carefully. She didn't even flinch at the emphasis. "Super dedicated," Lisa agreed, already typing another message. Probably to Travis, arranging their next romantic encounter in whatever hotel room my mortgage payments were subsidizing. I excused myself to the garage, ostensibly to work on my latest home improvement project, but really to process what I'd just learned. My workshop had always been my sanctuary, filled with tools that actually did what they were supposed to do, unlike the people in my life. 20 years. 20 years of believing that Lisa Jordan Rourke was the love of my life, my partner, my best friend. 20 years of working 60-hour weeks as a senior engineer at Morrison Technologies so she could pursue her marketing career without financial stress. 20 years of supporting her dreams, celebrating her promotions, and apparently, 20 years of being the world's most expensive fool. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Walt. "Beer later? Jennifer's got book club tonight and I'm not sitting through another Real Housewives marathon." Walt Henderson had been my friend since college, back when we were both young and stupid enough to think we understood women. He was a union electrician with calloused hands and a loyal heart, the kind of guy who'd help you move a body without asking questions. Not that I was planning any murders, but it was nice to know I had options. "Definitely," I texted back. "Bring the good stuff." I've got news. The rest of Saturday crawled by in a haze of domestic normalcy. Lisa flitted around the house, making plans with her friends Kendra and Barb for their weekly girls' night out. I'd always thought it was sweet that she maintained her friendships. Now I wondered how many of them knew about Travis and had been laughing at me behind my back. "You don't mind if I'm out late again, do you, honey?" Lisa asked as she applied her makeup with the kind of care usually reserved for special occasions. "Kendra's going through a rough patch with David and she really needs girl time." "Of course not," I lied smoothly. "Take all the time you need." She kissed my cheek, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume I'd bought her for our anniversary. The same perfume she was apparently wearing for another man. After dropping Mia at her friend's house, I met Walt at Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar that served honest drinks to honest people. Walt took one look at my face and ordered us both doubles. "All right, what's eating you?" he asked, settling his bulk onto the bar stool beside me. "Lisa's cheating on me," I said without preamble. Walt nearly choked on his whiskey. "Jesus, Nick. Are you sure?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshot I'd taken of Lisa's text conversation. Walt's expression darkened as he read. "That lying bitch," he muttered. "How long has this been going on?" "Good question. I'm guessing months, maybe longer. She's been working late and having girls' nights constantly. I thought she was just stressed about the Peterson account." "What are you going to do?" That was the million-dollar question. The old Nick would have confronted her immediately, demanded explanations, Probably ended up begging her to stay. But something had shifted in me when I saw that text. Something cold and calculating that I didn't entirely recognize. "I'm going to find out exactly what I'm dealing with first," I said. "Know your enemy and all that?" Walt raised his glass. "To knowing your enemy." "And making them pay," I added. We drank in silence for a while, watching a Cubs game neither of us cared about. Finally, Walt spoke up. "You know, my cousin Tony runs a private investigation business. Divorce stuff, mostly. Very discreet. Very thorough. I'll keep that in mind." But even as I said it, I was already formulating my own plan. I'd spent 2 decades as an engineer, solving problems and building systems. This was just another problem that needed a systematic solution. When I got home around midnight, Lisa's car was already in the driveway. I found her in our bedroom, freshly showered and wearing the silk nightgown I'd given her last Christmas. "How was your night out?" I asked, hanging up my jacket. "Oh, you know how it is with the girls." "Lots of wine, lots of complaining about men," she said with a laugh that sounded genuine. She was good, I had to give her that. "And how's Kendra's situation with David?" "Getting worse, I'm afraid. She's thinking about leaving him." The irony was so thick I could have cut it with a butter knife. Here was my wife, fresh from cheating on me, offering relationship advice about someone else's troubled marriage. "That's too bad," I said. "Marriage is supposed to mean something." "It does, honey. It absolutely does." She kissed me goodnight, the same kiss she'd given me thousands of times before. But now it tasted like betrayal. As Lisa settled into sleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. I needed evidence, lots of it. I needed to understand the full scope of her deception. And most importantly, I needed to figure out who Travis was and exactly what he thought he was taking from me. Because Nick Rourke might have been a fool for 20 years, but he was done being anyone's victim. Monday morning brought new revelations and a clear view of just how deep Lisa's deception ran. While she showered, I did something I'd never done in 20 years of marriage. I searched through her things. Her gym bag yielded the first treasure. A second phone, cheap and disposable, hidden in a zippered pocket behind her workout clothes. The text history between Lisa and Travis King made for fascinating reading. Travis, it turned out, was a 35-year-old entrepreneur who spent most of his time at Elite Fitness downtown, the expensive gym Lisa had joined 6 months ago. Their conversations read like a bad romance novel, full of explicit details about their encounters and Lisa's complaints about her boring husband who doesn't understand her needs. "Nick's working late again," read one message from 3 weeks ago. "Perfect timing for our usual room at the Marriott." "Can't wait to show you what a real man feels like," Travis had replied. "Your husband sounds like a total loser." "He is," Lisa had agreed. "But he pays the bills while I figure out my exit strategy." Exit strategy. The words hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just an affair. It was a planned demolition of our marriage, with me cast as the unwitting financier of my own destruction. I photographed everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, and put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Then I called in sick to work and spent the day conducting reconnaissance. Elite Fitness was exactly what I'd expected. A chrome and glass monument to vanity, filled with people who looked like they'd stepped out of fitness magazines. I paid for a day pass and set up in the cardio area with a clear view of the weight section. Travis King wasn't hard to spot. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, muscular, with the kind of artificial tan that came from expensive treatments. He moved through the gym like he owned it, flirting with the female staff and holding court with a group of similarly sculpted disciples. I watched him for 2 hours, learning his routine, his habits, his weaknesses. Because everyone has weaknesses, even golden gods with perfect abs and no apparent employment. That evening, Lisa announced she was going to dinner with Kendra to discuss work stuff. I smiled and wished her a good time, then followed her at a discreet distance to the Marriott downtown. She met Travis in the lobby, and they were all over each other before they even reached the elevators. 20 years of marriage, and my wife had never looked at me the way she looked at him in that moment. I waited in the bar, nursing a single beer and fighting the urge to storm upstairs and confront them. But that would have been the old Nick's move. Emotional, reactive, ultimately self-destructive. The new Nick was playing a longer game. They emerged 2 hours later, Lisa's hair slightly mussed despite her attempts to fix it. Travis walked her to her car like a gentleman, which would have been touching if he wasn't screwing another man's wife. I followed Lisa home, arriving just minutes after she did. She was in the kitchen, humming softly as she made herself tea. "How was dinner?" I asked. "Good." Kendra's really struggling with her marriage. David's been so distant lately. The lies came so easily to her now. I wondered when she'd stopped feeling guilty about them, or if she'd ever felt guilty at all. That's rough. Maybe they need counseling. Maybe. How was your evening? Quiet. Watched the game. Did some reading. You know me, boring as always. She smiled and patted my arm. That's why I love you, honey. You're so dependable. Dependable. Like a utility bill or a mortgage payment. Something you could count on but never got excited about. The next few days followed the same pattern. Lisa would make plans with her friends, meet Travis instead, and come home with increasingly elaborate stories about where she'd been. Meanwhile, I gathered evidence and planned my response. Walt came by Thursday night with pizza and moral support. "So what's the plan?" he asked, settling into my recliner with a beer. "I'm still working on it, but I know who he is now. Travis King, personal trainer at Elite Fitness. Lives in a fancy apartment downtown that he definitely can't afford on a trainer's salary." "Sugar mama," Walt said knowingly. "You probably got a few of them on the hook." "That's what I'm thinking." Lisa mentioned she's been helping him with some business investments. I'm betting she's been funneling our money to him. Can you prove it? Working on it. But I've got bigger problems. Mia's starting to ask questions about why her mom is never around anymore. That was the part that really ate at me. Lisa's affair was destroying more than just our marriage. It was confusing and hurting our daughter, who was already dealing with typical teenage stress. What does Mia know? Nothing concrete, but she's not stupid. She made a comment yesterday about Mom's new perfume and how she's been dressing up for work meetings. Kids notice everything. Walt nodded grimly. "So, what's your next move?" "I'm going to have a conversation with Travis, man to man." "Need backup?" "Not yet. This is just a friendly chat between two guys who care about Lisa's well-being." Walt grinned. "I love it when you get that look in your eye. Reminds me of college when you convinced that fraternity president to apologize for what he said about Jennifer Morrison. Different situation entirely. Same principle. You're scarier than people think, Nick." Friday afternoon found me back at Elite Fitness, this time with a plan. I'd timed my visit to coincide with Travis's usual workout, and I'd dressed the part. Old college t-shirt, worn shorts, sneakers that had seen better days. I looked exactly like what I was. A middle-aged suburban dad trying to get back in shape. Travis was holding court by the free weights, regaling his audience with some story that involved lots of gesturing and flexing. I waited until he was alone, then approached with what I hoped was a friendly smile. "Excuse me, are you Travis King?" He looked me up and down, clearly unimpressed by what he saw. "Yeah, that's me. You looking for training?" "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about my wife, Lisa Rourke." The blood drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. To his credit, he recovered quickly, but not before I saw the fear in his eyes. "I don't know any Lisa Rourke," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Really? That's strange because she knows you very well. Intimately, you might say." Now he looked around nervously, probably calculating whether he could take me in a fight. He had 40 pounds of muscle on me, but I had 20 years of rage and the element of surprise. "Look, man, I don't know what you think you know. I know about the Marriott. I know about the burner phone. I know about the money she's been giving you for your business ventures. What I don't know is whether you're just stupid or if you actually think this ends well for you." Travis's face went through several expressions before settling on defiant. "Anger. Your wife came to me, dude. She's the one who said she was unhappy, that you couldn't satisfy her. I'm just giving her what she needs." "What she needs," I repeated slowly. "And what exactly is that?" "A real man." Someone who knows how to treat a woman right. I nodded thoughtfully. By sleeping with her in hotel rooms paid for with her husband's money? That's your definition of treating a woman right? Look, if you can't keep your wife happy, that's not my problem. You're absolutely right, I said, stepping closer. It's not your problem. It's your mistake. Before he could respond, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there with his mouth open. I'd gotten what I came for. Confirmation that he was exactly as arrogant and stupid as I'd hoped. But more importantly, I'd planted a seed of doubt. Travis King thought he was playing games with a boring suburban husband. He was about to learn that some games have consequences he never saw coming. The confrontation with Travis had an immediate effect on Lisa's behavior. She became jumpy, constantly checking her phones, and her girls' nights suddenly became less frequent. Travis had obviously told her about our conversation, which meant they were both on edge. Good. Nervous people make mistakes, and I was counting on them to make plenty. My opportunity came the following Tuesday when Lisa announced she had to work late for a critical client presentation. I knew it was bullshit. Her calendar was synced to our shared Google account, and there were no meetings scheduled after 3 p.m. Instead of calling her out, I smiled and offered to pick up Chinese takeout for dinner. Don't work too hard, honey. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I got to work. Lisa's home office was typically organized. Files sorted by client, computer password protected, desk drawers locked. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd left her work laptop open and logged in. What I found in her email account was even worse than I'd imagined. Not only was she having an affair with Travis, but she'd been systematically preparing for divorce. She'd consulted with 3 different attorneys, researched asset division laws, and even opened a separate bank account that I knew nothing about. The most damaging email was from her lawyer, Margaret Steinberg, outlining a strategy to maximize Lisa's settlement by portraying me as an emotionally distant workaholic who prioritized career over family. The plan included documenting my controlling behavior and building a case for full custody of Mia. But the real gut punch came in an email to her sister Karen. Nick's so clueless he actually thinks we're happy. By the time I'm done, I'll have the house, custody, and enough alimony to start fresh with Travis. 20 years of playing the perfect wife is finally going to pay off. I sat in her chair, staring at those words until they burned themselves into my memory. 20 years of playing the perfect wife. Our entire marriage had been a performance, and I'd been the only one who didn't know it was an act. I photographed everything, uploaded it to my secure account, and began planning my response. If Lisa wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real strategist looked like. My first strike came during her department's monthly video conference call. Lisa's work computer was still logged into her personal email, and she'd foolishly saved all her passwords in the browser. It took me exactly 3 minutes to access her Zoom account and find the recurring meeting link for her team's weekly check-in. The next morning, while Lisa was in the shower, I logged into her Zoom account and uploaded a very special presentation to her shared files folder. Then I scheduled it to automatically display during her 11 a.m. meeting with the entire marketing department. I was at my own office when my phone started buzzing with frantic calls from Lisa. I let them all go to voicemail, then listened to her increasingly panicked messages. Nick, something's wrong with my computer. Please call me back. Nick, this is an emergency. I need you to call me right now. Nick, please. Something terrible has happened at work. I waited until lunch to call her back, adopting a tone of concerned confusion. Lisa? I got your messages. What's wrong? Someone hacked my work computer, she said, her voice shaking. They showed private emails during my meeting with the entire department. What kind of emails? Personal ones, about us, about our marriage. I don't understand. What about our marriage? There was a long pause. Nick, we need to talk. Can you come home? I'm in the middle of a project deadline. Can it wait until tonight? No, it can't wait. Please, Nick, this is important. I found Lisa in our living room, pacing like a caged animal. Her laptop was closed, her phone face down on the coffee table. She looked like she'd been crying. What exactly happened at your meeting? I asked, settling into my usual chair. Someone accessed my personal email and displayed it during our presentation. Everyone they saw private conversations. What kind of private conversations? She looked at me carefully, probably trying to gauge how much I knew. Conversations about our relationship. About problems we've been having. Problems? What problems? Don't play dumb, Nick. You know we haven't been happy lately. I thought we were fine. Sure, you've been working a lot of late nights and going out with friends more often, but I figured that was just stress from the Peterson account. Lisa's face went through several expressions before settling on frustrated resignation. We need to talk about our marriage. Really talk. Okay, what do you want to talk about? I think we should consider a trial separation. There it was. The exit strategy she'd been planning for months, probably years. But instead of the emotional confrontation she was expecting, I just nodded thoughtfully. If that's what you think is best for our family? She blinked in surprise. You're not going to fight for us? Lisa, if you're unhappy enough to want a separation, then clearly I've failed as a husband. The least I can do is respect your decision. It wasn't the response she'd been prepared for, and I could see her scrambling to adjust her strategy. She'd probably expected tears, begging, maybe even anger. Instead, she got calm acceptance, which was somehow worse. I think it would be best if I moved out temporarily, she continued, just until we figure things out. Where will you go? I found a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just somewhere to clear my head. Downtown. Near Travis, no doubt. But I didn't mention that. What about Mia? She should stay here with you during the week, school and all. I'll take her on weekends. That seems reasonable. Lisa stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're being very calm about this. What's the alternative? Screaming and throwing things? That wouldn't help anyone. No, I suppose it wouldn't. We spent the next hour discussing logistics, how to tell Mia, how to handle finances, when Lisa would move out. Through it all, I maintained the same calm, reasonable demeanor that was clearly driving her crazy. What Lisa didn't know was that her private apartment was actually Travis's place on North Michigan Avenue. I'd followed her there twice in the past week, watching her use her own key to let herself in. She wasn't moving out to clear her head, she was moving in with her boyfriend. But I let her maintain the fiction because it served my purposes. The more lies she told, the more ammunition I'd have when this inevitably ended up in court. That evening, we sat Mia down and explained the situation. Lisa gave a carefully rehearsed speech about needing space to work on herself and how much she loved us both. Mia listened in silence, her expression unreadable. So you're getting divorced? Mia finally asked. We're just taking a break, Lisa said quickly. Sometimes married people need time apart to figure things out. Mia looked at me. Dad? Is that what you want too? I want whatever makes your mother happy, I said truthfully. And I want you to know that none of this is your fault, and both your parents love you very much. Mia nodded, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was 16, not 6. She understood exactly what was happening, even if the adults were pretending otherwise. Lisa moved out the following weekend, taking only her clothes and personal items. She made a big show of being emotional about leaving, hugging both Mia and me like she was going off to war instead of moving in with her boyfriend 3 miles away. I'll call every day, she promised Mia, and we'll have so much fun on weekends. After she left, the house felt different. Quieter, but also somehow more honest. For the first time in months, I could relax in my own home without wondering what lies were being told or what secrets were being kept. Mia found me in the kitchen that evening, making dinner for 2 instead of 3. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, kiddo. How are you holding up? She shrugged. Mom's been acting weird for months. I kind of saw this coming. What do you mean weird? Always on her phone, never around, getting dressed up for work meetings. I'm not stupid, Dad. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw the intelligence and perception she'd inherited from both her parents. She knew more than she was letting on. What do you think about all this? I asked. I think Mom's lying about needing space to work on herself. And I think you're being way too nice about it. Sometimes being nice is the smartest strategy. Mia smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like the woman I'd fallen in love with 20 years ago, before that woman had turned out to be an illusion. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. More than you'll ever know. As I tucked her into bed that night, I made a silent promise. Lisa might have been willing to destroy our family for her own selfish desires, but I wouldn't let her destroy Mia's faith in love, loyalty, and the possibility of happiness. The war was just beginning, and I intended to win. Lisa's trial separation lasted exactly 2 weeks before she showed her true colors. I came home from work on a Thursday to find her in my kitchen, going through financial documents with a woman I didn't recognize. "Nick, this is Margaret Steinberg, my attorney," Lisa said without preamble. "We need to discuss some things." Margaret Steinberg was everything I'd expected from her emails. Sharp-eyed, expensively dressed, and radiating the kind of predatory confidence that came from years of destroying families for profit. "Mr. Rourke," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I represent your wife in this matter." "What matter would that be?" I asked, ignoring her outstretched hand. Lisa and Margaret exchanged glances. "The dissolution of your marriage," Margaret said smoothly. "Lisa has decided to file for divorce." "I see. And you thought it was appropriate to discuss this in my home, going through my personal papers without my knowledge or consent?" "These are joint assets," Margaret replied. "Lisa has every right to review financial documents. Actually, she doesn't. Not without a court order or my permission, which she doesn't have." I walked to the front door and held it open. "I think you should leave now." Margaret bristled. "Mr. Rourke, I understand you're emotional, but I'm not emotional at all. I'm telling you to get out of my house before I call the police and have you removed for trespassing." Lisa stood up, her face flushed with anger. "Nick, don't be ridiculous. We're trying to handle this civilly." "Civilly?" "You moved out 2 weeks ago claiming you needed space to work on our marriage. Now you're here with a divorce attorney, going through my financial records without permission. That's your definition of civil? I was going to tell you." "When? After you'd cleaned out our bank accounts?" Margaret stepped forward. "Mr. Rourke, your wife is entitled to 50% of all marital assets. We're simply trying to determine what those assets are. Then get a court order. Until then, get out." They left, but not before Margaret handed me a business card and informed me that I'd be receiving divorce papers within the week. Lisa didn't say goodbye. I called Walt immediately. "They made their move," I told him. "Divorce papers are coming." "Shit, you ready for this?" "I've been ready, but I need a favor." "Name it." "I need you to install some security cameras around my house. Nothing fancy, just basic surveillance." "Expecting trouble?" "I'm expecting Lisa and her boyfriend to do something stupid. I want it on record when they do." Walt came over that weekend with a van full of equipment. We spent Saturday installing discrete cameras around the property. Front door, back door, driveway, garage. All of it feeding to a secure server in my basement. "This is some serious spy shit," Walt commented as we tested the system. "Lisa wants to play games. I'm just making sure I know the rules." The divorce papers arrived on Monday, delivered by a smug process server who seemed to enjoy his job a little too much. I read through them carefully, noting all the lies and exaggerations Margaret had included. According to the filing, I was an emotionally distant workaholic who had neglected the marriage and failed to meet my wife's emotional needs. Lisa was seeking full custody of Mia, the house, alimony, and 50% of all assets, including my retirement accounts and stock options. What the papers didn't mention was her affair, her secret bank account, or her plan to move in with Travis permanently. But that was okay. I had plenty of time to introduce those facts later. I hired my own attorney, David Chen, a quiet man with a reputation for thoroughness and an impressive win record in contested divorces. Unlike Margaret's flashy downtown office, David worked out of a modest suite in the suburbs, but his credentials were impeccable. "This is quite a comprehensive filing," David said after reviewing Lisa's petition. "Your wife's attorney is asking for everything but your firstborn child." "Can she get it?" "Depends on what we can prove. Do you have any evidence of adultery? I handed him a thick folder containing printouts of text messages, hotel receipts, photographs, and email conversations. David's eyebrows rose as he flipped through the pages. This is extensive. How did you obtain all this? Carefully and legally. Everything here was either taken from devices I had legitimate access to or observed in public places. Your wife was remarkably careless with her communications. Arrogant people usually are. David smiled for the first time since I'd met him. Mr. Rourke, I think we're going to get along just fine. The next few weeks settled into an uneasy routine. Lisa would pick up Mia on Friday evenings and return her Sunday nights, always with elaborate stories about their fun weekend adventures. But Mia's reports painted a different picture. She's always on the phone, Mia told me after one particularly awkward weekend. And this guy Travis is always around. Mom says he's just a friend, but he acts like he lives there. How do you feel about that? He's gross. He walks around in his underwear and makes comments about Mom's body, and he treats me like I'm in the way. Has he ever been inappropriate with you? Not like that, but he's rude. He told Mom she should send me to boarding school so they could have more privacy. That was the moment I decided Travis King needed to disappear from our lives permanently. I started with his finances. A little research revealed that Travis's personal training business was actually a front for a much more interesting operation. He was running an illegal steroid distribution ring out of Elite Fitness, selling performance-enhancing drugs to wannabe bodybuilders and desperate middle-aged men. Even better, he was using Lisa's apartment, the one she was paying for with our joint credit card, as a storage facility for his inventory. I compiled everything into a comprehensive report and sent it anonymously to the DEA, the Illinois Department of Professional Regulation, and Elite Fitness's corporate headquarters. Then I sat back and waited. The raid happened on a Wednesday morning while Lisa was at work and Mia was at school. I watched the news coverage from my office, smiling as federal agents led Travis away in handcuffs. The reporter mentioned that they'd found significant quantities of illegal steroids and human growth hormone in an apartment registered to one Lisa Jordan Rourke. My phone started ringing immediately. "Nick, you have to help me," Lisa sobbed into the phone. "The police think I'm involved in Travis's business." "What business?" "He was selling steroids. The DEA raided the apartment and found drugs everywhere. They think I knew about it." "Did you?" "Of course not. I had no idea what he was doing." "That's terrible, Lisa." "Have you called Margaret?" "She's not taking my calls. Something about potential criminal liability affecting the divorce case." "I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do? Can I come home? Just until this gets sorted out?" I pretended to consider it. "I don't think that's a good idea. The divorce papers specifically state that we're living separately. Wouldn't want to complicate things legally." There was a long silence. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "Enjoying what? My wife being investigated for drug trafficking? Why would I enjoy that?" "You know what you did?" "I'm afraid I don't know what you mean." She hung up without saying goodbye. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Travis was charged with multiple felonies and held without bail. Lisa was questioned extensively but eventually released without charges, though the investigation remained open. Elite Fitness fired Travis and banned Lisa from the premises. And Margaret Steinberg suddenly decided that Lisa's case was too complicated for her practice. But the real victory came when Mia called me from school. "Dad, everyone's talking about Mom and that steroid guy. It's all over social media." "I'm sorry, kiddo. That must be embarrassing. Actually, I'm kind of proud of you." "Proud of me?" "Why?" "Because you finally fought back. Mom thought she could just throw you away and you'd go quietly. But you're smarter than she is, aren't you?" "I just want what's best for our family." "No, Dad. You want justice. And so do I." That evening, Lisa showed up at my door looking haggard and desperate. Her perfect hair was unwashed, her designer clothes wrinkled, her makeup smudged from crying. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm listening." "I know you did this. I know you destroyed Travis and ruined everything. That's quite an accusation. Do you have any proof? I don't need proof. I know you. Apparently you don't know me as well as you thought. She stepped closer, and for a moment I saw a flash of the woman I'd fallen in love with 20 years ago, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. What do you want? She asked. I want my daughter to grow up knowing that actions have consequences. I want her to understand that loyalty matters, that promises mean something, that you can't just destroy people's lives without paying a price. And what about us? What about our marriage? Our marriage ended the day you decided Travis King was worth more than 20 years of love and commitment. I'm just making sure the divorce reflects that reality. Lisa left without another word, and I never saw her cry again. With Travis out of the picture and Margaret Steinberg no longer representing her, Lisa was forced to find new legal counsel. She eventually settled on Robert Martinez, a bottom feeder who specialized in hopeless cases and contingency fees. Martinez was everything Margaret wasn't: sloppy, desperate, and willing to make promises he couldn't keep. His first strategy was to claim that I had orchestrated Travis's arrest as part of a vindictive campaign to destroy Lisa's life. Your Honor, Martinez argued during our first court hearing, my client has been the victim of a systematic harassment campaign by her estranged husband. Mr. Rourke used his technical expertise to invade her privacy, steal confidential information, and orchestrate the arrest of her friend on trumped-up charges. Judge Patricia Hoffman looked unimpressed. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who had been handling family court cases for over 20 years. She'd heard every sob story and seen every dirty trick in the book. Mr. Martinez, do you have any evidence that Mr. Rourke was involved in the DEA investigation? Well, no, Your Honor, but the timing is highly suspicious. Mr. Chen, does your client wish to respond to these allegations? David stood calmly. Your Honor, my client categorically denies any involvement in law enforcement activities. However, we do have extensive evidence of Mrs. Rourke's extramarital affair, her secret financial accounts, and her plan to defraud my client in these divorce proceedings. He handed a thick folder to the bailiff, who passed it to Judge Hoffman. As she flipped through the pages, her expression grew increasingly stern. Mrs. Rourke, are these your text messages? Lisa looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Your Honor, those were private communications that were obtained illegally from a phone found in the marital home, which your husband had every right to access, Judge Hoffman interrupted. Mr. Martinez, your client's credibility is somewhat compromised by this evidence. I suggest you focus on the actual issues in this case rather than conspiracy theories. The hearing went downhill from there. By the time we left the courthouse, Lisa's demands for full custody, alimony, and the house had been reduced to a standard joint custody arrangement and an equitable division of assets. But I wasn't done yet. The real coup de grace came when Mia made a decision that surprised everyone, including me. She was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework when she looked up and made an announcement that changed everything. Dad, I want to live with you full time. What do you mean? I don't want to spend weekends with Mom anymore. I want to stay here. Honey, the court order says I'm 16. I can choose where I want to live, right? She was right. In Illinois, children over 14 could express a preference for custody arrangements, and judges typically honored those preferences unless there were compelling reasons not to. Can I ask why you've made this decision? Mia closed her textbook and looked at me with an expression far too mature for her 16 years. Because you're the parent who stayed. You're the one who kept our family together even when Mom was trying to tear it apart. And because I don't want to spend my weekends watching her cry about Travis or listen to her complain about how unfair life is. She's still your mother. I know, and I still love her. But I don't like her very much right now. The next court hearing was a disaster for Lisa's side. When Judge Hoffman asked Mia about her living preferences, my daughter was clear and articulate about her reasons. I love both my parents, Mia testified, but I want to live with my dad. He's been the stable one through all of this. He's the one who helps me with homework, drives me to school, and makes sure I have everything I need. Mom's been too busy with her own problems to focus on mine. Martinez tried to object, claiming that I had coached Mia or turned her against her mother, but Judge Hoffman shut him down quickly. Mr. Martinez, this young lady is clearly intelligent and well-spoken. Unless you have evidence of parental alienation, I'm inclined to honor her preferences. The final divorce decree was signed on a cold February morning, almost exactly 1 year after I'd first discovered Lisa's affair. The settlement was nothing like what she'd originally demanded. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and primary custody of Mia. Lisa got her car, half of our savings, and visitation rights every other weekend and one evening per week. There was no alimony. Judge Hoffman ruled that Lisa's affair and deception constituted grounds for denying spousal support. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was watching Lisa realize that her carefully planned exit strategy had blown up in her face. She'd traded 20 years of marriage, her relationship with her daughter, and her financial security for a convicted felon who was now serving 5 years in federal prison. After the hearing, Lisa approached me in the courthouse hallway. She looked older, worn down by months of legal battles and public humiliation. "I hope you're happy," she said. "I'm not happy that our marriage ended. I'm not happy that Mia had to go through this, but I am satisfied that justice was served." "Justice? You destroyed my life." "No, Lisa. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure you couldn't destroy mine and Mia's in the process." She started to say something else, then stopped. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of the woman I'd once loved, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "Goodbye, Nick. Goodbye, Lisa." I watched her walk away, her heels clicking on the marble floor, and felt nothing but relief. The war was over, and my daughter and I had survived. 6 months after the divorce, life finally felt steady. Mia was thriving. I'd earned a promotion, and the house was officially mine. Then Lisa started showing up off schedule, probing Mia for details about my money and routine, and lurking outside at odd hours. It escalated when I came home to find her and a private investigator rifling my office. I called 911. Both were arrested. Explaining it to Mia was worse. She was furious and asked me to seek termination of Lisa's visitation. While the hearing was pending, Lisa returned with her boyfriend Travis and another man to provoke a confrontation. Bat to my car, spray paint on the garage, a speaker ready for theatrics. Instead, I lit up the yard, turned on sprinklers, and broadcast their names to the neighborhood. Dozens filmed. Police arrived. Travis was sent back to prison and Lisa was charged. In family court, Judge Hoffman reviewed the footage and history, then terminated Lisa's visitation and granted me sole custody, requiring counseling before any future contact. That night, with the yard repaired and Mia studying at the table, I realized the best revenge wasn't punishing Lisa. It was building a peaceful life without her. We kept what mattered: Mia's trust, my self-respect, and a clean start grounded in truth. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching,